in healthcare. You can see somebody, a middle-class person, thriving in his family, just one disease, say kidney failure. That person will end up on the pages of newspaper and in your television studios asking for assistance to pay for that. Why should we still be doing that in an economy that is considered the largest in Africa? Look at educational attainment. Just under MDG goals, we have achieved about 80% of primary school enrollment. But secondary school enrollment drops to 54%. Tertiary education enrollment, it drops to 10%. As we speak, over 10 million Nigerians are out of school. And we say we have universal basic education. It's estimated that if all girls in this country complete secondary education, early marriage will drop by 64%. Do you know what will happen if early marriage drops? All adverse health outcomes associated with early marriage, teen pregnancy, maternal morbidity and mortality, what we call it, fistula and all that. We are still dealing with primary preventable diseases in 21st century where people are dealing with other advanced forms of improving human care. This is what they need to invest in for me, and then voice and participation. Nigerians want to be on the table, no longer consulting people. We want to be at the table, represented through parity policies, decentralization of powers. You don't need to go to Abuja to influence government policies. These are the things I expect them. And if they take to that track, development agencies such as Ford Foundation will partner with them.
Interesting. Mr. Aremu? Hello, Mr. Aremu, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Mr. Aremu?
Yes. I was listening to Mr. Chukwuma speak, and maybe something I will quickly add to that is not to repeat all of what he has said, is that the major challenge we have with the state of inequality in the country is that we have also not reviewed our planning process, the way we put together a developmental strategy in the country, which removes people from planning, which is also one of the things we need to deal with. We have to put people at the center of planning. There has to be some inclusiveness, because before we can also start talking about addressing inequality in the country. And the developmental planning also involves our budgeting process, because our budget is also the law that guides that. I often love calling it statement of intention by government. And you talk about statement of intention for addressing concerns of the people, of the citizens, without involving them. That is also one of the challenges we have, that we have to start rethinking our planning process and involve people, make it more participatory. As Mr. Chukwuma said, planning, development planning, things that will take people out of inequality cannot be what you come to Abuja to deal with. It has to start from the grassroots and take it off.
Okay. Let me stay with you, Mr. Aremu. We have a new expression in our vocabulary in Nigeria. And that expression is stomach infrastructure. Do you not need to factor this into your planning as a politician?
Well, I think there's a distortion of a cultural expression in that cultural infrastructure, stomach infrastructure expression. And I keep even telling some colleagues in the NGO sector that we should not assist the politicians to also distort our cultural expression. I think the stomach infrastructure, where it actually originated from, the state it evolved from, was from the tongue of the people from that area, where they talk about a soap seller is advertising his or her product. That why will I focus on watching the outside if I've not taken care of the inside? And what people were actually saying then was not that they want anybody to come and bribe them, not that anybody should come and insult them with handouts, but that they were asking that planning should focus on things that are beneficial. that government should stop looking at just cosmopolitan development, stop looking at urban development, not stop looking at just beautifying the environment, but start thinking of those things that will put resources in their pockets, that will actually lead to their empowerment. That is what people were talking about. But unfortunately, the politicians turn it upside down, and unfortunately too, those of us in the NGO sector and also some of us in the media have also heard politicians distort that cultural expression. So in terms of stomach infrastructure, now going back to your question properly, is that those who are planning have to still keep talking, have to keep thinking about what is people beneficial. And that can also can only happen, going back to what I said earlier on, when the planning process also involves the people.
Okay.
As we have examples from Brazil.
Permit me to just return to the studio for a minute and discuss this stomach infrastructure business with Mr. Chukwuma. Do you not believe that if the issue of inequality, which you mentioned earlier, was taken care of, then there will be no more, I mean, those words will no longer be in our vocabulary when it comes to politics.
Yeah, I mean, I think we also have to understand that the basis of this whole stomach infrastructure business is, in my view, a somewhat perverted way of dealing with something you can actually deal with on a sustainable basis. It is born out of recognition that the poverty level in Nigeria is very high. People are dealing more with the here and now because they don't know about the tomorrow that they may not live to actualize. So instead of engaging in development planning that will over time address this, but while doing that, communicating and engaging with the people, the whole perverted discussion about stomach infrastructure is that if you keep giving people a cup of rice or chicken or whatever, that is what is needed to solve it. But then there's also ways countries have come up, addressed it through what they call direct cash transfer. Because it's been found out that a direct cash handout to poor people living at the lower level actually contributes to building an economy more than the big money that the big people have, because monies that very rich people control eventually leaves the country through capital flight. But a very poor person, like Dangote Foundation was doing in the Northeast, of giving, I think they plan to give 10,000 naira to 10,000 people across the 36 states of Nigeria.
What would the 10,000 naira be used for?
10,000 naira can actually start a business.
That's the thing.
For somebody in a rural area who has no income.
For one who doesn't have an idea, I mean, he just says, I want to start a business, and you give him 10,000 naira, what would it be used for? Because you might say, okay, yes, they wanted to do that, and that would help a great deal, but there was something like that being done by this poverty alleviation the arm of the government. They had something of that sort that started, I think, 2008, 2007 or thereabout. So how effective has it been? And
there's a process
the utilization
of
this
is a process through which is disbursed. You know, with 10,000 naira, the process of getting that money, if it is required you to go through either the mobile money or the banking process, you actually being enrolled in a banking system that captures capital from that class of people and make it available for SME investors. You know, if you hand it out like that without training or going through a process that will bring those people into the formal system, it might just be like a water you pour on cocoyam leaf. But if it is added through the procedure of disbursing the money and some ancillary training as to the opportunities available for them to invest their money, it can contribute to capital formation and accumulation.
Interesting.
Look, there's a question here that Okudili Ogbuefi brought. It says, the National Assembly should quickly pass an asset forfeiture bill if the fight against corruption is to be meaningful.
There is asset forfeiture. people have forfeited assets in this country. So